Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're going to have a great show today. We're going to talk about vaccinating the cow dog. Many things you need to know about getting vaccinations for whether it's a young pup or whether it's not so young, maybe an experienced pup. Thanks for joining us. More after these messages.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm here with Dr. Jacob Hagemeyer, who's a veterinarian and a PhD in beef cattle production medicine. And since we're talking about cow, dog, we figured that Dr. Hagemeyer, since he's a veterinarian and a beef cattle production medicine specialist, will be able to talk about vaccines and different things to that nature. But Jacob brings a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge to veterinary medicine, and we're pleased to have him on the show. Someone that's been a friend and a colleague for years, and finally get you here and get you on the show and spend some time with us and some time with our viewers. It's great to have you.
Yep, excited to be here.
So let's get into it. Folks, when you have a cow dog and you're thinking about, or any dog, you know, whether it's little Petey riding with you in your truck, you know, days would be lonely without old Petey in the
Right.
truck. We like to have our dogs and cats and things, well, at least our dogs with us. And so it's kind of the core, whether it's cows or pigs or horses or dogs or humans, it's kind of one of the basis for health.
Right. And so when we think about developing a health program for our dog, it's not too far off of what we think about in developing health programs for cattle. And along with the benefits that your cow dog might provide you in cattle handling or other aspects of cattle production, it's also setting up a long, healthy life by creating an environment for a long, healthy life and man's best friend. And so when we think of setting up vaccination programs, there's a few factors that we want to take into consideration. One being exposure to pathogens and the risk of being exposed to those, and then also, you know, what benefit does it provide? And so we think, you know, just like cattle vaccination programs, we want to work closely with the veterinarian in developing these vaccination programs and take into consideration, you know, exposure. For instance, when we think of our cattle dogs, in addition to the core vaccines, which I think we'll touch on a little bit here later in the program, Leptospira is a pathogen that cow dogs might have more exposure to due to being around standing water. Yep. Compared to
wildlife.
Wildlife. Versus Bordetella, which is more of a pathogen that you're exposed to at boarding facilities. And so those are just a couple factors just to show as an example of why you need to communicate with your veterinarian when developing these vaccination programs.
Yeah, and if you're taking your dog to competitions, if you're just going to be on the farm and they're not exposed to much, then it's a different set of vaccinations than one if you're going to be, you know, the old suburban dog that's going to the kennel every other weekend, or if you're taking them to competitions, and whether it's agility or whether it's you know, herding competitions, cutting competitions, things of that nature, you're going to have a different set. And these vaccines, folks, it isn't so that we just prevent your dog from getting a cold. These are some crippling diseases.
Right.
that can cause the end of the life.
Yep, and yeah, in a very short time, depending on the disease too. So it's imperative that we protect our cow dogs against some of these diseases.
You bet. Folks, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back with Dr. Jacob Hagemeyer. We're going to get into the core vaccines recommended by the AVMA after these messages.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome. Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
This segment is brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook, or visit us online at sftmeats.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Jacob Hagemeyer, and we're talking about vaccinations for the cow dog. Dr. Hagemeyer is a veterinarian. He is a friend and a colleague. We're glad to get him in here, get him on the show, take time out of his busy schedule. But Jacob, when we get to talking about vaccines, the AVMA, I mean, obviously we're going to work with our local veterinarian, but the American Veterinary Medical Association has established what they call core vaccine recommendations for dogs. What exactly is a core vaccine, or why do they call it a core vaccine?
So the reason the AVMA distinguishes core versus non-core vaccines from a high level, just between diseases, the ability to be fatal, pose a significant public health risk, and just in general the spread or the presence of the disease.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Core diseases, we think they're everywhere. If we don't vaccinate against them, the risk of acquiring that disease and potentially being fatal is much greater than what we think of in our non-core vaccines.
So how many core antigens or diseases do we vaccinate for?
So there's 4 core AVMA recommended vaccines or antigens, and the 4 being rabies, distemper, adenovirus, and parvovirus.
Okay. Well, I think we've all heard of rabies, and rabies is one of those that is everywhere. Obviously, severe clinical signs, we've all seen Cujo and the different things like that. But talk to me a little bit about rabies and where it comes from and what are the reservoirs.
Well, the important thing about rabies first is we know it's been around, we know it's there, but we have an effective vaccine for it.
Yep.
And the wildlife, we know it's transmitted through wildlife. Depending on region, on the East Coast, we tend to think of raccoons more being the reservoir. In the Midwest, typically more the skunk. Texas, getting further southwest, maybe the fox can be the reservoir. But again, coyotes, yeah, it can be multiple species of wildlife. But again, we have an effective vaccine against it, and it's everywhere.
You bet. Talk to me a little bit about distemper. It's something that we've heard of, you know, distemper in dogs and distemper in cats forever.
Right. So distemper can cause an array of signs. It's a little bit harder to pinpoint than a rabies type case, but you can see really high fevers, ocular or discharge from the eye, and oral discharge, and then also diarrhea, and again an array of signs, and potentially fatal in a very acute period.
Let's jump to parvo, because parvo obviously is one of those that's very crippling, that we talk about a lot, see it a lot. I can tell you parvo feces walking around the corner from the smell.
Right.
But what is parvovirus?
So parvovirus is a virus that attacks the gastrointestinal tracts of young puppies, and it is a nasty disease, and as you just kind of touched on, the diarrhea can be very severe. They get very dehydrated in a short amount of time, and it's imperative to get them on fluids. And again, we have an effective vaccine against parvovirus, but poses a significant risk all across the country in young puppies.
Well, it kind of goes back to, we've got rabies, we've got a respiratory virus of dogs that's crippling, and a gastrointestinal virus that's crippling, and we have great vaccines against these. let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the schedule of these vaccines for you and for your dog, not for you, after these messages.
Brought to you in part by the 64th Annual Eskridge Labor Day Rodeo, September 3rd and 4th.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
The BQA Tip of the Day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vetmedica Inc.
Today's BQA Tip of the Day is using stock dogs effectively for low-stress cattle handling on the ranch. Now, I'm a firm believer that a dog can really enhance the stress-free environment for handling cattle on a ranch if they're properly trained. I think that part of the draw to being in the cattle industry is a quality lifestyle that the rancher enjoys, the rancher's family. It's a way of life. I think having a good dog and a good horse really enhances that. And if you spend the time training a dog to be a part of your team, to work cattle in a stress-free way, it really can make for a positive experience every time you go out and work your cattle. You know, cattle can really be trained to respond to a dog. If you start out young with your cattle, like when you wean your heifers, prepare them as they mature on your ranch to respond to you and the dog properly. You'll reap the benefits for years to come. For cows that handle quietly and understand what you're trying to do with them when you move them on the ranch, whether that's bringing them to the corral for processing or shifting them from pasture to pasture, it really will make the cattle easier to handle. It will gentle cattle down. Contrary to popular belief in some cases where people think that dogs will stir cattle up and make cattle harder to handle, a dog that's properly broke and trained and used correctly will actually make your cattle more manageable and easier to move on the ranch, and will make your life much easier, reduce the stress level for you and for the cattle, which eventually will create a better health environment for them and enhances your BQA program.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
Support Kansas agriculture education with an AgriTag. AgriTags are available anytime at your county treasurer. They look great on cars and trucks. For more information, go online to ksagclassroom.org.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Jacob Hagemeyer. We're here at Kansas State University where we're talking about vaccinating your dog, and it's something that's very important. It's core to the dog's health. And working with your local veterinarian, working with veterinarians like Dr. Hagemeyer, you'll not only get the core vaccine recommendations from the AVMA, but other regional or geographical deviations to those vaccines, or ones that might protect your dog to something that's in the environment close to you, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But okay, we get a puppy. He's 6 weeks old. What am I going to do, Dr. Hagemeyer?
Right, so just the very first thing I guess we'd say is we don't start vaccinating until 6 weeks to avoid interference with the antibodies that they get from the bitch through the milk. And so that's when we typically start at 6 weeks. And at that time, we start the distemper the adenovirus, and then the parvovirus vaccinations. And what we do is we schedule those every 3 weeks so that we get 4 rounds of vaccinations. And we do that in order, since we don't know exactly when the maternal antibodies will wane, in order to make sure that we have vaccine on board for that puppy to build immunity to those pathogens, and then we stop around week 16 of age.
So when you think about this, it's no different than vaccinating your calves. You have colostrum from the cow that provides antibody against IBR, BVD, and things to that nature, and provides protection.
Right.
And there can be maternal antibody interference. So if you vaccinate, which is actually giving the puppy the virus, and there's antibodies circulating in the blood from the colostrum, it will actually attach to the vaccine and render it useless.
Yep.
So what you're saying then is we're going to start at 6 weeks, then go 9, 12, 15.
Right.
Because we don't know where that maternal antibody is going to drop off.
Right.
So that the vaccine will actually be effective.
Yep. And in that case, we cover our bases so that when that maternal antibody does, we're there and we have protection against those pathogens because the vaccine is on board.
And so the other flip side of that is, a lot of people think, well, you got it that it's boostering.
Right.
And it's really not boostering. It's trying to get the first vaccine to take.
Right.
And make sure we hit that window appropriately.
And that's a good point. And so in addition to the vaccines up until 16 weeks of age, what we do the first year is we do an annual booster, and then after that, depending on your veterinarian's recommendations, you might not have to booster until every 3 years following that initial annual booster. But that annual booster is important.
So the first vaccine for 6, 9, 12, 15 is just the distemper parvo.
Yep, and the adenovirus.
And adenovirus.
It's in there, right.
It's all in the one vaccine, and you can either get that at the veterinary clinic or you can buy that at the different farms. But one thing you need to be aware of, though, at buying vaccine at farm stores is making sure that there's proper storage, proper transport of the vaccine, right. Things to that nature. When do we give rabies vaccine?
So we give rabies at no earlier than 12 weeks of age, and that's a one-time shot with, again, similar to the other core vaccines, an annual booster, and then repeat every 1 to 3 years.
Okay, so 6, 9, 12, 15 for adeno, distemper, parvo, with the rabies being at 12 weeks, and then we're going to come back and booster annually both of those vaccines, right. And maybe 3 years depending on the variation
after that initial annual booster.
Great. You're watching DocTalk. We'll come and wrap up the show on vaccinating the dog after these messages.
Bill Rischel here in North Platte told me about Kansas Regenerative Medicine, and after talking to Dr. Pope, we did a lot of reading and researching, looking on the internet about it. I guess the thing that impressed me is that he told me, he said, if we don't think it's going to help you, we're not going to do it. I'm a former athlete, played college basketball, had some severe trauma on the right ankle. This brace is what I had to wear all the time. Now I don't wear this during the day. That's a real improvement for me. Encourage anybody that's interested to go down and do a consultation with them.
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher, leaving more time to tend to other vital tasks on the farm. To learn more, visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
When your living depends on agriculture, you can depend on KFRM 550 AM. If you're in the southwest three-fourths of Kansas or the northern half of Oklahoma, catch us at 550 AM on the radio dial. But if that isn't you, listen on your cell phone at TuneIn Radio or on your computer at KFRM.com. We promise to keep you informed, entertained, and company as you go through your day. KFRM 550 AM, the voice of the plains. We would like to join your management team.
This Meet the Future Veterinarian is brought to you by Zuprevo. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Lacey Robinson is a fourth-generation producer who grew up on an Angus cattle operation. Her interest in food animal medicine runs deep. Working on the ranch from a young age helped develop her love for all aspects of beef production and animal husbandry. She and her fiancé have a small Angus herd in the Flint Hills north of Manhattan and market bulls to commercial cattlemen.
If you love rodeo, mark your calendar right now for the 64th Annual Labor Day Rodeo in Eskridge on September 3rd and 4th at 7 p.m. This is entertainment for your whole family. Calf roping, steer mugging, barrel racing, and more. Now, let's rodeo.
Broadband has become as important to us as highways. That is why DocTalk is teaming up with NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, and rural broadband companies like Blue Valley Telecommunications in fighting for quality broadband access through the program Smart Rural Communities.
I don't think we have any idea what's coming in the future. I couldn't have imagined 5 years ago what we're doing today. So in 2 years, I would guess there's things we can't imagine that we're going to be doing.
To learn more, visit ntca.org/smart or bluevalley.net.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Jacob Hagemeyer. You know, when you described the female cow dog, this is a PG show or G show. I was kind of nervous where we were going with that, folks. But anyway, we don't use that kind of language on this show, Jacob. Anyway, thanks for staying tuned. Thanks for watching this with us. We're going to talk about 3 non-core vaccines now, or antigens, and those are lepto, Lyme's disease, and bordetella. And Jacob, you talked about lepto and cow dogs or dogs out in ponds and things to that nature.
Right.
Why?
So leptospira is a bacteria that's passed in the urine of wildlife species, and it can be very fatal to our canines and causing renal disease or kidney disease. And again, it's a disease that can be fatal, but opposed to the core vaccines, it's one that's a little more geographic dependent, and also it's more in the, like our cow dogs, animals that are exposed to standing bodies of water.
Yeah, the dog that's in the city ain't going to be exposed.
Right.
Maybe rats.
Right.
But then let's jump to Lyme's disease. This one's one that people get, that the deer tick and things to that nature. So not only the vaccination, but probably some tick preventative would be good for this too.
Right, and so that's, again, going back to the health program, it doesn't start or end with just vaccinations. It's in order, keep everything in context and making sure we cover all our bases. And Lyme disease, again, is transmitted by ticks. Typically on the East Coast, we think it's a little bit more of a concern, but again, in outdoor dogs such as our cow dogs, in wooded areas exposed to a lot of ticks, definitely something to consider and discuss with your local veterinarian.
Yeah, and it's one of those that's going to be specific to the vet clinic. You're going to have to go in and request the Lyme's disease vaccine for your dog. If you're in a wooded area, if you're in the area that Lyme disease is a concern to humans, it's also a concern to dogs. And then the last one, bordetella, which is kennel cough.
Right. So bordetella, typically we associate with boarding facilities. If you're not keeping your dog in a boarding facility, this is a vaccine that maybe does not add a lot of benefit to you. And again, there's always some risk with giving a vaccine, and so we don't want to just give a vaccine just to give it. We need to keep it in context and weigh the risk and are we doing good by giving this vaccine. But for sure, if you're using boarding facilities, bordetella is definitely one you'll want to discuss with your veterinarian.
Absolutely, and not just if you're using a boarding facility, but if you're showing your dog or if you're taking it to competitions, you're going to want to use bordetella because it's something that's highly contagious from dog to dog, and make sure it's an easy vaccine too.
Right.
It's oral.
Yep.
Used to be in the nose, and boy, it's amazing how many times I got vaccinated for bordetella and they'd sneeze it back at me after I'd give it. And but I feel like I'm covered for kennel cough.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, it's a great show.
Yep.
I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate everything you do and everything that the cattlemen do for our industry and our nation, and I had a lot of fun being here.
You bet. Well, folks, thanks for watching Doc Talk. Dr. Jacob Hagemeyer and myself. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. And if you want to know more about what we do here at DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Be sure to check out our shop. You can buy coffee mugs and you can buy hats and t-shirts and different things to that nature and support DocTalk. Thanks for watching us today. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.